Today we start with the first test of the new CHEMICALWORKZ EVO Mini, the small battery-operated polishing machine. Let's take a closer look today with a 50mm plate and a 38mm plate. We will examine this more closely on the Ford Fiesta, as there are many small areas where such a machine can be perfectly used. Let's take a look at the performance, how well it works, how is the power of the small machine, what comes out of the little powerhouse. I wish you a lot of fun, and here we go. So this is the spot I have chosen. We have a nice wide area for the 50mm plate. We will take it here. So a 50mm pad, and you can see it fits perfectly here. I'm not going to make a big polishing tutorial out of this, but match the pads to your surfaces. That means using a 75mm or 125mm pad here would not work at all, because you would rub off this rubber and also this plastic trim at the top. So, just a quick reminder to tape everything off here, because your pads will be completely black afterwards with these old rubber trims, which we will also look at in our later video, and you will have to throw them away. And the rubber is completely worn down. That's why in such actions in these tight spots, tape off and protect everything up here completely. Let's first take a look at the scratches. I hope they are visible in the picture. You can also see here, this is a typical spot where a flower was. I don't think we can get that out, so we shouldn't focus too much on that today. I will still polish over a section. I'll put some tape here again so we can test how much we can at least get out of such a heavy scratch. You stick it on like this. There's also a really bad dent here, so something hit it hard, no idea. And of course, we also look further up here. There's also a really deep scratch in here. And the whole system can also be operated in a rotary manner. So up here, we also have many, many scratches. There's also a burned sticker included. And we will polish this side here, the area. Let's first start with the whole 50mm topic. I've already modified it. How to modify it here, the adapter has also been changed back to 12mm. You saw how to do it with the 50mm plate in my first video. Otherwise, we will switch to the small plate here again. For the details up here, you can work even better and more precisely on the edges with this. But let's first start with the topic of 50mm. Otherwise, the surface is of course prepared, clean, and also freed from dust. And now we will attach the pad here. And now we simply apply a bit of polish. The main goal is to see the machine in action. That's why we do it this way. A little polish on it. For such a small surface, I always do it like this. I first distribute it briefly with the pad without the machine running. This way, you can also rub it a bit. When you work a bit with the machine, you know that it always starts in the last mode. I think that's cool here. You just have to remember to set it back down at the end so that it starts on level 1 here. And now we will distribute it first. You can also go to level 2 while distributing. That works well too. So, to show you how powerful the little machine is, we will do it this way. I will try a little bit of tape. It's a small trick to make it visible for you. I also like to use this in workshops, and now we can observe well whether the marking stays in place while polishing or if it rotates nicely in a circle. If it doesn't hold, I need to make the point. So, let's get started with the actual polishing, and you can already see that I'm testing different holding methods for you in the video. Thumb on top, 2 fingers underneath, so to speak, 1 finger in front. Of course, you can also grip it completely. I'll show you that again in a moment. So this isn't a polishing tutorial, but rather showing you different techniques regarding the grip. And I also actively pressed down hard on the machine to see how well the motor can handle it. And it really handled it very well. It didn't get stuck on small edges or anything. The marking keeps rotating nicely. I should mention that I've edited all the polishing scenes together a bit, otherwise it would just take too long for you. And it's really about the impression of the machine and not about any tutorial. So if you want to learn how to polish, I have many guides and you can watch a lot. That's why I'm really editing this together for you in a compact way. Yes, so from that perspective, it works really well. So, first short test round. Let's take a look at that. As mentioned, this is not a guide to proper polishing. Rather, it's about seeing the machine in action and assessing its polishing performance. What you could also hear nicely is that when I intentionally exaggerated the pressure, meaning I pressed really hard, which you shouldn't actually do with the machine, you can notice that the sound drops a bit, but the support plate doesn't stop. So it works well. But then you can tell, okay, now I'm starting to torture the machine. That's why I wanted to show you this best with light, to polish out all these things here so you can clearly see where there are still residues. And down here after these deep scratches on the edge. Let's take a look. Let's go over to you. That actually looks pretty good, doesn't it? Can we hover a bit here with the camera equipment? Well, that actually looks pretty good. This extremely deep scratch is still here. No, that was just a piece from the other one. That one is gone too. Look, I can display a picture beforehand. And down here, of course, at this extreme point, it is indeed dented and really pressed in. That is indeed massive. You either have to work rotationally or the whole thing needs to be repainted quite logically. So you shouldn't chalk it up here. But up here, where the big, thick, deep scratch was, it looks good. Also, it looks very, very good along the top here. You can see that the edge has been nicely done. There is still a tiny little scratch, as we call it, still in there. But otherwise, even up to the edge, it really looks good. And now, when you have small details like these little edges, you can either rework them completely. Here is also another really deep thing in there. Or you simply take a smaller support cell to get closer to these edges. That's the approach. But overall, it already looks very, very good. And primarily, it's really about the handling of the machine. I think it's really nice, and I will try again here at this spot. Let's actively go over it now. I'll take the tape off because this is, of course, a really bad spot here. But you can already see nicely that something has been achieved here. But of course, I can already say that we lost some here. We specifically used 46 finish medium with a medium pad. So that wasn't a strong cut at all. And the machine and the whole combination handled it well. We can do it like this. Let's really go for a very strong combination now and try to work on it properly with a strong cut pad. The nice thing is, you just saw it. And I definitely don't want to withhold that from you. We basically stopped at the last stage with the 6. And then you just do it like this. You press the minus with your thumb, turn it on, and at the same time, you press down. When I turn it on now, we're back to 1. And when you're at stage 6, you just turn it on and immediately press minus. And the nice thing is, the machine doesn't just take off right away, but goes to full power and everything flies around, because I think someone had written that as well. But that is not the case at all. So guys, test it out first before you judge in any way, and especially with such electronic devices. Instead, you can use this gentle startup that starts here. I'm really going to turn it up now. Let's turn it off at level 6. It really only takes a moment, it goes up, and in that time you have a good 2 seconds, and 2 seconds is a long time. Take a look at this. Look, it spins and hardly goes up. So, yes, that's why. It's always a shame to judge beforehand. But, let's test it out now. Now take a look. Level 6, extreme wear, very, very strong pad, very, very powerful. Yes, for me, this is already heading towards grinding alarm here. Look, the pad continues to spin without any problems. Here, with this very, very strong cut variant, it becomes really clear again, because there is, of course, an incredibly large amount of friction. Here, I really angled it a bit actively, as you just saw. The machine jumped a little, really pressed down hard, now really pushing here. And you can also see how the machine really bites into the paint with this hard cut, so it does really very well. And importantly, the plate is always rotating, it doesn't stop. And you can also see, now I'm exaggerating a bit, so I'm actively polishing incorrectly here. And this is a nice stress test for the machine as well. It clearly puts the material under pressure, but I just wanted to show you that the machine continues to work coldly nonetheless. Except when you really push it deep into this little dent hole, then eventually it can't handle it anymore. But overall, really very, very good. So, I believe we won't be able to get more than this. This indentation also causes the eccentric or rotational movement to be somewhat hindered, because there is a real, yes, a dent, a really big dent in it. But with the clear cut, it already looks significantly better, but of course only the light reveals the truth. In the end, we still have slight marks because I didn't work them long enough. We will now remove them with a finish polish, but overall the appearance has already improved significantly. That's why we are switching to the finish variant again. So, to remove this light haze, just go over it again with a finish pad, and you will see that this is now completely uncut, and it works super, super fast and easy. You just need to really improve this top layer in terms of shine, and it goes quickly. You can cover this small area within, maybe 20 seconds, I believe, the whole scene here. It works very, very nicely, and it really does a good job. Even here in such a recessed dent, it works very, very well. So, good. Fresh spot from the cloth. We'll also take the lamp right away. So, as soon as the pad has to dive into this dent, at some point it manages to. The rotational movement then slows down. That's quite logical because it works sideways against these edges. It has no chance anymore. But overall, up here everything is still completely scratched. Let's take a look at this. Let's have a look. Yes, this is exactly what I mean. Here we have removed everything nicely. And right here, look how the light splits. So there is a really bad dent in there. And a really deep scratch. You could now work on this with the rotary wave. We can do it again later, but not in this video, rather in a later video to really work out this, in quotes, hole and remove these scratches. Although I still get caught quite a bit here with my fingernail. So up here you could still tear a little bit, but down here, is that even visible to you? Up here, you might still be able to achieve a little bit, but there are already some really deep ones in there. Some parts are even really pressed in, the metal itself. But it's nice to see how much the little machine can already accomplish, even though we polished it in a dent, so to speak. Nice thing. And up here, of course, if I remove the traces, a bit more with the Clearcut. Then we really have a very, very nice result here. I chose this strip. It's really super narrow. But here we also need to tape off a bit because we shouldn't do that to the machine and the pad, specifically actually to the pad. And you can already see here, this works really, really well. If it sticks out a bit, no problem. So you activate the whole thing and go straight to minus. Boom. So it's really no problem to adjust this here. Let's go. And here on this small narrow strip, it becomes clear again that it actually works very, very well even with the small divider. As I said, I always polish on the highest setting. Here I'm working the polish in a bit, so I'm slowly increasing. And then on the highest setting, just go evenly all the way over it. 2, 3, 4 strips simply from top to bottom. It's really a very small mini area and it gets polished in no time. Also, this scene is completely uncut for you. Here I tried to angle it a bit, but it really worked very, very well. So, even here on the narrow spots, it's great. Again, for all beginners or those considering delving into the topic, the smaller the pad, the more sensitive it is to getting stuck on an angle. And that's why, if you angle the machine, it will start to rub massively at that point. Not good for the paint and also not good for the pad and the whole movement, because then the machine has to work sideways against the paint and eventually this whole thing will also come to a stop. So really pay attention, make a small mark for yourselves. That's just a tip from me, folks. I've met so many during the workshop who were polishing and didn't even notice that their support divider wasn't turning at all. So here, a tip from me, a small mark or best with a permanent marker. This way, you always have a good reference. So, let's see how much that helped. I'll take a new cloth because we don't need to use the one that got stuck anymore. So, keep the machine nice and straight and then, I'm really curious how much we could get out of this. That was basically the Clearcut variant. Let's see if we have a slight haze in it. Yes, just a very light one. Let's check with you to make sure I'm on the right spot. So, a very light haze. I would definitely polish it a bit more cleanly with a finish. So, do you see this here? But I think here you can't even, it's just a white spot and here at least you have a defined light. But, again, just switch to a finish pad, a very small round. Also, here's my note about the whole pad topic. The Zvizzer TrapezPads fit perfectly on the 38cm plate. The ThermoPads have a size of 35mm. You will find all recommendations in the comment box below regarding the machine, so you don't get the wrong pads. But the trapezoid ones really do a good job and here the finish is quickly and easily done. Done. So you don't need to make 10 cross passes here, that doesn't help at all. You just want to remove this very light haze. That should actually be done after just a few seconds. It should be done, so let's polish it out. Down here we still have a little bit to remove. That wasn't a new pad. There was still a bit of something dried up somewhere. So let's take a look. The tape has of course also sanded a bit, that's clear, but now it should be finished. So here we are. Well, I'll just get right in front of it. That looks good. I have to be a bit careful now that it doesn't focus the light. I need to go to the side. So, I think that looks very, very stylish. We can take the tape down here and the edge. Can you already see it like this? This grey haze. But I believe the difference is very, very clear. So it works. It works very, very well and without any issues. Could do it just like that. Very nice thing. And you can achieve a lot. For someone who has gotten a beginner set, for example, the DA9 or another polishing machine, for them, as mentioned in the unboxing, this is a very nice extension towards smaller support plates. The nice thing is you can convert the DA9, for example, to a 75mm plate, and you can easily handle the slightly wider things with it. But when it comes to such details here or along the top or where it is very strongly curved, it is really advantageous to have a 50mm plate or intermediate sizes. There are 50, 38, and 30, like with the PXE, for example. And there might be a little more coming as an extension for the machine as well. We'll just have to wait and see. But look here, first a 38mm plate, 50mm ties, and you can wonderfully vary what you need for the vehicle, and you won't have any problems polishing half on any trim pieces, or not reaching properly or damaging the rubber here, because you can adjust it very well. This, for example, is extremely narrow, so you can of course also work on it with the small plate, but always tape off all these rubber trims, because otherwise you'll immediately have this rubber abrasion in the pad. Nice thing. If you have questions about the machine, feel free to reach out. Otherwise, we will see it in use again and again. Here at these narrow spots, you just can't work with a DA line, obviously. You do that on the roof, hood, doors, and so on. But these narrow spots like here now, or for example here, work wonderfully with it. And that's why, again, it is, as mentioned in the title, for me the ideal addition, for example, to the DA9. Feel free to try it out. If you have questions, feel free to reach out, and we'll see each other again next time. Yours, Sebastian. Bye.